Well, it's a good thing I checked the audio. Had I not checked the audio, you would be getting a much tinier version of today's broadcast. How is everybody? I hope everyone has had a restful and relaxing 3-day weekend. I did. Had a very urban time in Austin. It was a kick. The lovely and talented one and I went and saw some live music. How about that? We saw some live music this weekend on Friday night, and I want to thank W.C. Ray for recommending on Henri Herbert, I believe that's his name, or Herman, Henri Herman, this French pianist who completely just tore this place up, man. He had a 3-piece with him, a guitar, electric guitar, bass drums, and he was playing an electric piano keyboard. It was really, I think, like Jerry Lee Lewis. He had a Jerry Lee Lewis vibe. It was awesome, and hadn't seen live music in a while like that. Like out here in the Hill Country, you'll get country western, which it's okay, and then you'll get the requisite kind of singer-songwriter, which I am not a huge fan of, unless it's really exceptional. If you're going to be a singer-songwriter, take me on a journey. Take me somewhere. Give me Nick Drake. Give me Joni Mitchell. That's where I go with singer-songwriter stuff. You know, strumming some chords and talking about, you know, your lost love or, you know, memories of a rusted childhood. I don't know. It's not my thing. Right. So, and then, by the way, if you're a singer-songwriter out there and that's what you do, please do not take this as an affront. Just put some Nick Drake records on, especially the first one, and put some Joni Mitchell on, especially Hijira or Don Juan's Reckless Daughter. And then we'll listen. Anyway, I'm such a fucking musical snob sometimes, but this was really good. Really, really good. I hadn't rocked out like that in a long time. So I hope everybody had their own version of a rocking weekend. All right, who do we have here? Of course, you know how he was here first? Look at that timestamp, 8:27 p.m. Like you couldn't get up early enough to get the pole position this morning. Michael had you beat by 11 hours easily. Michael, hats off to you, brother. Kelly B, look at that. Kelly B, 9:13. You guys are checking in the night before. This is cool, man. This is kind of like waiting in line for the Springsteen tickets or something. By the way, I want to give a big shout out to Lisa Donnell, who sent me this photo. Look at that. Look at that. So she sent me this photo, and I decided we're gonna turn it into a thumbnail today. Isn't that beautiful? That's a real photo from a real person. Let's see, KZ Gypsy Muse. There'd be something weird in the air. I want the decode. Do the best I can. The lovely DJ Pebblestone. Can't wait to see her in just a few weeks. We are now 1 month away from our event, and I'm totally excited. It's starting to shape up, and we have all of our participants in the event, not the attendees, but the participants lined up, ready to go. And I will have a few more announcements for some of you, all of you actually, before the event actually starts. So Kabuki Theater, what's up, Bo? Good to see you. Thumbs up, brother. Maya Rose. That's why you always first, Michael. I know. Maya caught it. But look at that. Kelly B, 913. KZ Gypsy Muse 9:44 in Pebblestone 10:18 p.m. That is so funny. Maya Rose got in at 10:55. Liddy Lou gets in at 1:20 a.m. Headed to surgery for back injections. All right, Liddy Lou. We're with you. We're with you. Get back on the case. Queen Lisa's here. Checking in from Florida. There's my man, Scott Jerzik. Buongiorno, Scott. And right behind him, the Jerziks. 1-2. What a 1-2 punch. Look at that. Logan Grimes is here. Grand Rising, Logan. First time being early. Well, don't let it be a habit. Let's see who else we have. Jay Scheffler. Hi, Jay. What's going on, Jay? Good to see you. Jay checking in from sunny Tucson. Sigurd. Good day to all Goa trans fanatics. I used to hang out with the people in the San Francisco trance scene. It was not my favorite music. Let me just say that it was conceptually it was interesting because it had all these kind of psychedelic Indian themes. It conceptually was kind of interesting. The music itself, I found to be like way up here. It was like way up here. And people even danced like that, right? Everything was kind of above the head, and it was like, to me, it was very disassociative. And it didn't have any sex. Like there was no sex in Goa trance. It was all about some kind of, fuzzy transcendence. And it didn't have any sex, which was odd because there are all these beautiful women. The yoga women would do the trance thing. And so they would show off their trancy yoga bodies, but the music itself didn't have any sex. You know what I mean by that? I was a lot more into like breaks, like funky breaks and stuff that had some gritty bottom end. That doesn't sound right. Tom Jordan's here. What's going on, Tom? Well, I know what's going on. I just saw you half an hour ago. Misbehaving too. The day has risen, and I'm still here taking in oxygen, much to the annoyance of others and to the delight of others. Well, we're glad you're here. I actually use that. I actually use that oxygen line. I don't know if you heard the news, but Ricky Pearsall, who plays for the San Francisco 49ers, who's a Virgo, by the way, and he just got drafted this year. He's had a rough time in training camp because he has this shoulder issue from college where it pops every now and then, and it bothered him a lot in training camp. He was in San Francisco at Union Square, which San Francisco has become a shithole. I'm sorry if I offend any San Franciscans. It's become a shithole. And San Franciscans and Californians in general, with the exception of our dear friend Michael, who does live in the East Bay, way in the East Bay. In fact, he lives in Contra Costa County, which may as well be another fucking country at this point. I mean, seriously. Once you go through the Lawrence Livermore, the tunnel there, I forget the name of it, but the tunnel, right? It's named after the woman. I forget her name. But once you go through that tunnel, you're in a different country. Like you're not part of the Bay Area. So on the other side of the tunnel, it's become a shithole. And Ricky Pearsall was down at Union Square, which used to be nice. It used to be nice. And a 17-year-old, they called him a 17-year-old boy. He's not 17. I mean, he's not a boy. I guarantee that right now. And he pulled out a gun and he tried to steal Ricky Pearsall's Rolex. And Ricky didn't want him to take his Rolex, which is probably not a good idea on Ricky's part. He should have given up the Rolex. But here's what I'll say. If somebody has a gun and you give up your Rolex, is that Is there a kind of a unspoken consent that person will then walk away once they get your Rolex and leave you alone? You would hope, but that's not always the case. Maybe he gets some weird thing in his brain, and maybe it's like a gang initiation or something, and he's got to kill somebody. So he gets the Rolex and he kills. You never know. People will say, well, don't give it up. Just or don't fight, just give it up. You don't know. There's no ground rules that say, here, you have a gun, you want this, I'll give you this, and you'll leave me. In most cases, that might be true. But in a place like San Francisco, that may not be true because they are lenient on crime. And he apparently had been apprehended 3 days before that with a gun. Now, I don't know if it was in San Francisco. He's from Tracy, the shooter. And he is supposedly in a gang. So he's in a gang. Okay. If he's in a gang, what do you do when you're in a gang? You kill somebody. That's your initiation. Maybe he's done that already, or maybe that was going to be his initiation. I don't know. So Ricky fought him off and he got a bullet in the chest and it went right out the back, missed all of his vital organs. He's lucky, blessed, whatever you want to say. And somebody on a message board said, he's a waste of a first round draft choice. Can you fucking believe that? He's a waste of a first round draft choice. And I have a few, how do I say this? Nom de plumes on YouTube. And I posted, you're a waste of oxygen. So there you go. That gets to the oxygen comment. Soul Travelers here. What's happening? Nor is she the queen of speed. She's got the pedal to the metal. Sue Leonard, what's going on, Sue? Atlantis rising. Pluto in Capricorn again. There she is, the lovely and talented one. Saving Austin one tooth at a time. Dunya Beeswax. We got a couple of 512ers in the house. There's my man, Ryan. What's going on, Ryan? Yes, please. I'm always open to work with you astrologically. One of my favorite things to do. And that's a place where you can go book a reading. Kelly. We got Kelly here and Kelly B back to back. Look at that. Laura E. I'm going to post this. Good morning, Vermont news. According to the state health department, Eastern equine encephalitis is here. They're canceling all sorts of events, particularly in the evening hours. Can you say lockdown? Bunch of bullshit. Thank you, Bill fucking Gates. Scrubbies. What's happening, Tamara? Maya Rose. Did we say hi to her? I think we did. Hola, hola, hola. You can buy me a coffee here. That's correct. Thank you very much. Proud to say that this channel has been demonetized for the better part of a decade. Let's see. Platinum Happiness. Hope that hip is happening. Hope you got a hip happening hip. There's our man, Jeff Rosen. What's going on, brother? Good to see you, JR. Green-Eyed Crow is here. If Tim Waltz was a beverage, he would be an oat milk-derived bubble tea served at a youth cafe, set up a converted storage container. Ugh. 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 Not good. Not good. It's not a good visual. Thanks, Sigurd. Let's see. PB, Brandy Herrera. The Noga movement. We are back. Sersha. Hey, I got that right. Hey. The audio is suitably fulsome. Good. We shall serve no audio before it's time. Harriet Bowie. Hey. Let's see. Not everyone had that privilege. Well, sometimes you got to take it. Claire's here. Hi, Claire. Claire, our psychic powerhouse. Kelly B, no rest for the weary. Well, for those who did. Barbara Boots. Been watching lots of different podcasts on politics and spiritual topics. Seems to be the new national pastime. Glemma Spank is here. Peter Bion, what's up, brother? Checking in from Vero Beach. Aaron L. Finca Lynn, record-breaking lightning and thunder and rain last night. There you go. Moira, good morning. We'll be quiet today. You're in your happy place. Both types of music. There you go. Both types of music. Yes. Singer-songwriter, you want Roy Harper. You want Roy Harper tier or nothing. I'd agree with that. Roy Harper, John Martin, Nick Drake, Richard Thompson. Now we're starting to have a conversation. Also finished watching Patterns, lots of ideas and new directions percolating up into the public consciousness. That was really cool. The only thing I regret about Sunday night show is I wish I'd asked people to chime in first. So the next time we do that, you always want to learn and evolve from what I want to learn and evolve from what I'm doing. So the next time we do like a movie, like Astrological Decode, I'm going to have you guys chime in first. And we'll have a discussion about it. And then I'll go into like what I have sort of pulled apart and then throw that out there. Because when I put it out there at the end, hey, let's talk about it. People are like, well, you probably talked about the whole fucking thing. So I'm not sure, what else there is to add. Or, if you did have something that you probably need to have time to think about it. That was such an interesting exercise in general. And then my take on the movie was that the three main characters, everybody identifies with or doesn't identify with the three main characters in the movie. Most people identify with Briggs, which I found was interesting. I found myself identifying with Staples, sort of torn between being fair, right, and trying to get this other person to stand up. But then Staples realizes that he can't do that. That Briggs, even in his moment of ignominy and defeat, has to stand up for himself. And no matter how fair or how just Staples wants to be, he can't do the thing for Briggs that Briggs needs to do for himself. Nobody likes Ramsey, but I like Ramsey. It's a very unpopular position, but I like Ramsey because he's honest. He doesn't sugarcoat anything about his position. He doesn't try to make it warm and fuzzy, because number one, it's not who he is. Number two, he's not being true to the spirit of the thing that he's dedicated himself to. So he may be an asshole, but he's got the cards on the table. You know where he's coming from, and you know what his goals are. And when he challenges Staples at the end, he said, "You'll grow more than you'll ever grow in your entire life by working with." He's not wrong. He will push Staples. He will require Staples to bring his A game every day. Iron sharpens iron. And unfortunately, he has to play the role of a hitman in Patterns because he can't fire Briggs. He can't fire him. It's not done. Right? To fire Briggs would be even more of a dishonor than Briggs actually resigning, which was really what he was trying to do. And Briggs had an opportunity to resign with fire. Like, he could have slammed his hand down at the table at the end and said, I've had it with you, Ramsey. I've had it with you, and I won't take it anymore. Right? He could have had any soliloquy he wanted, and Ramsey would have taken it, and he would have taken his resignation, and he would have got a pension. But because Briggs had no inner life, he couldn't do it. He was a hollowed out man on so many levels. And anyway, it was a fun exercise. Warlanda, Sean Mullins for musical storyteller. I like Sean Mullins. I wouldn't put him in the singer-songwriter camp, though. Let's see, please. Yes, dude. I've been stuck at this number forever. Please help me get to 16,000 people. Please. Jen Adams is here. Hi, Jen. Love Nick and Joni. Well, they're the cream. They're the clotted cream of singer-songwriters. Love and Rockets, saw Love and Rockets, Jane's Addiction. Wow. I met both those guys. I had the weirdest experience with Perry Farrell. I'm not going to get into it here. Let's see. I don't like singer-songwriters, but I have a super soft spot for Suzanne Vega. Suzanne Vega's good. I like Suzanne Vega. She's good. Can you tell me what the title Patterns meant? Well, that's up for you to determine. I can't tell you everything. I'll take my folk song cycle about a privileged upbringing elsewhere. That is so funny. We've got both country and Western. What's up, Ziff? That's a good line. Blues Brothers. Not a snob. Using discernment. Yes. Jane's Addiction. They're still there. Dave Navarro, pretty underrated guitarist, by the way. Let's see. It is a beautiful photo. Lisa got a good eye. Those Virgos can take good pictures. It's like Brock Friday anytime Robert posts in the evening hours. You must have noticed a pattern. A pattern, Kelly B. Marie d'Ange, salut tous le monde. Let's see what else we have here. The Oklahoma Wildcat, Janice Phillips, is here. Fallon Blue, what's happening? Hola, RGV, TX had some righteous storms. Yeah, we got some rain here tonight. Today, too. Yeah, last night. Rainbows and butterflies. Sharon Lewis is here. Maceo Gabbard. Steger, sexless yoga vixens. It's kind of the truth. I have real issues with music made on computers. The grid is not your friend. I don't have issues. You know why? Because I can't play music, but I can do loops and samples and things like that, which I do enjoy. I don't have an issue with it that much, but that's just me. If I could play, I might have more of an issue with it. I do have an issue with AI music. There you go. Let's see who else. Caldecott. Thank you, Michael. The Caldecott tunnel. Helen Caldecott. Ricky says he ain't no punk. You know what's really funny? Like all these guys in the Bay Area. Oh, Ricky Pierce all soft. He can't stay on the field. He fucking just took a bullet to the chest while fighting off this guy who was trying to rob him. I think Ricky has earned some street cred. Norteño's gang member. Is that it, Michael? Really? Oh, interesting. Sun Trekker Thompson's here. Yes, come to our October Harvest Moon event, the 4th through the 6th. Please join us. I will keep the initial sign-up price until the 15th of September when I cannot take any more people. So you got 2 weeks. 2 weeks to get here. Anybody else? Intrinsic. Howdy, Intrinsic. More Vero Beach in the house. Did Robert freeze? It is you. It is you. Let's see. My birthday from you, Uriah. My birthday from Uriah Heep. Oh, we talked about this. Right. Wasn't your father the drummer? Was your father the drummer from Uriah Heep? Wizards and Demons. Great record. Easy living. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Ramsey is the reason I was self-employed most of my life. No one tells me what to do. He has to. He's running a company. Ramsey reminds me of Daniel Plainview. There will be blood with the recognition that life's a zero-sum game. Yep. Thank you, AR. Valeria Rubens. You're a beautiful soul, too. Good morning to you. Look at that. Jane Adams seeing Jane's in Love and Rockets on Tuesday. Very interesting. I had a high school English teacher do that too. Helps write papers. Well, that's what I did. I studied English, and it changed my brain forever. Road Trip 1981. What's happening? Veronica's Barn is here. I think we can jump in. Let me just see. And I'm just going to go quickly. Angie 808, Gaia Dance, and I think we are up to speed. There we go. Let's see. Oh, and Jackie Delario. Jackie coming in a little bit later. The Empress. The Empress is coming in a little on the late side. All right, let's get into the weather. We got a new moon. We got a new moon. We got a new moon. New moon. New moon. We got a new moon. We got a new moon. We got a new moon. New moon. New moon. It's almost like new moon on Monday, but it's not because it's Tuesday. But if this were if this wasn't a leap year, it would be a Monday. Now I got it y'all kind of confused, don't I? Anyway, there it is. New moon in Virgo. Who's going to be industrious today? I'm going to continue my tradition of getting my hair cut on the new moon today. It'll be just a trim, a conservative trim, as befitting the sign of Virgo. This is a very interesting day because, well, we've got this mutable T-square really kicking in today, right? The moon at 16, Jupiter at 19, and then we have the moon in opposition with Saturn. The moon Jupiter square is, all right, let me get into this a little bit. The sun / moon Jupiter square, and the sun will be moving more into that square as we move further into the sign of Virgo, even though we're here on the 3rd of September. It's been around. We're 11 degrees in, 11 days of Virgo. We're already at the second decan. We're at the Capricornian decan now. So the moon Jupiter square is one of those squares that if you don't pay attention, you will fritter away the hours of the long day. That's what you will do. You will fritter away the hours of the long day. Isn't that from Pink Floyd? Anyway, yeah. So if you want to get things done, don't get distracted. Jupiter is vying for your attention. Oh, there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this. Ever since Jupiter's been in Gemini, it's been information whack-a-mole. Right? Boo, boo, boo. Hey, hey, hey. Venezuelan gangs, Hell's Angels, Encephalitis, Ukraine, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, Stolen Valor, RFK. I mean, come on. Everything is like vying for your attention right now. And if you want to get some things done, you have to dial back on the distraction. I'm just saying. You have to dial back on the distraction. Now, that doesn't mean that moon Jupiter square can't be interesting. If you can somehow make your routine more interesting, more stimulating, that's a good way to get through the routine. Not all work needs to be tedious. You can theoretically have a more inventive or playful time with your work. Today, I'm going to Lowe's, which is one of my least favorite fucking things to do because I had to buy an oven. The old oven died. And because of the shape of the old oven, it has a bottom part and then has a top part, like a panel. And then there's the oven, and then there's a piece of wood between the panel and the oven. Well, the oven fits, but then I got this open panel space that I have to deal with. So I bought this oven from Lowe's, and the woman who sold it to me, how would I describe her? She's kind of like a drone NPC in some ways. Kind of like that. And I remember kind of getting into it with her because since I didn't have a Lowe's, I didn't buy it on a Lowe's credit card. I only have 3 days to return it, which is bullshit. All I have to do is call up Ken Paxton's Attorney General office and I'll get that shit returned real fast. But I held on to it because I didn't know, what my other options were. But she's one of these people. I don't know if you've ever experienced this. But she's one of these people on the customer service end where she makes it so it feels like it's your fault. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, you did this and you did this and you did this. I'm like, well, hold on a second. Blaming the customer is not a good strategy at any point, right? You may have some degree of authority with people that you work for or work under you at Lowe's, but that's not a good strategy with dealing with somebody like the customer. Even though the customer may have limited options, your job is to make the customer feel like they're right. But that's old America. I got to go to Lowe's today. Now, how I interact with her, that'll be interesting. That'll be the Jupiter moon square, I'm sure. Mars is right at the tail end of Gemini. It is anaretic. There's nothing left in Mars. There's nothing left. It has essentially worn itself out. The high octane, at times aggressive, at times tricksterish and pranksterish energy of Mars and Gemini is about to leave us. I'll miss it. I'll miss Mars and Gemini. It was fun. It was feisty. It was a feisty energy. And now it goes into uber defensive Cancer. Mars and Cancer. How many people are going to be butthurt with Mars and Cancer coming up? Man. Hey, and this is with somebody who has Mars and Cancer. Like, it's going to go 0 Cancer. It's going to, my Mars return tomorrow. I'll have my Mars return tomorrow. So I'm not going to diss Mars and Cancer. This is my Mars, but people will get butthurt. It is a Mars that takes things very, very personally. Very personally. It is at times offensive because it's being defensive. And people of Mars and Cancer should do their best not to be offensive, but they should do everything in their power to defend whatever it is they need to defend, whether it's their property, their territory, their family, values. Like Mars and Cancer has a place there. Today, Mars is in the exact square with Neptune. Okay, let's talk about that. Let us talk about that. That is not the most optimal position to pick a fight. Stay away from picking fights today. I may stay off Twitter today. Well, I can't. I just posted something, but it was inoffensive. It was a Duran Duran song. But this is not a good day to pick a fight. Not a good day to pick a fight because somebody is going to feel hurt. And then when Mars goes into Cancer, that hurt sticks around and it festers and it festers and it festers. This is also one of these days where, I'm probably in this camp as well. This gets right into that Moon Jupiter square. The information stimulation addiction cycle. Because Mars and Gemini has just been ramping up everybody's need for more information. And more information isn't always good, right? It's not always good. More isn't always better. That doesn't mean that you can't consume, but there's generally or there theoretically should be a selective process. With Mars and Gemini, it kind of goes out the window. And it is what it is, right? But today we've reached the apex of that. And we've reached the apex with the Neptune square and the inconjunct with Pluto. And the inconjunct with Pluto, to me, it feels like, how would I describe this? It feels like the clock is ticking with that Mars-Pluto inconjunct. And when I read stories about Aurora, Colorado, or I read stories about even in Chicago where these gangs are starting to take over these apartment buildings, and then you have the local Chicago gangs basically saying, hey, You better this is you're in Chicago, and you better watch what you're doing here. Right? To me, that's that Mars Pluto in conjunct as Pluto goes back into Capricorn for a brief period of time, and we're traveling, into the sort of the final pieces of, well, let's call this the end of the 20th century. And I know that we're 2 decades deep into the 21st century, but Pluto in Capricorn really is sort of the far shore of the 20th century. And there's something about this time, right, with the retrograde, which reminds us of who we are, where we came from, the things that we enjoyed. There's a gripping nostalgia, even though Capricorn is not a nostalgic sign, right? We're going to have Mars and Cancer is a nostalgic sign, and we will go through a Mars Pluto opposition at a certain point. And then, of course, Mars will go into Leo, and this is where we're at the height of that nostalgic period, and people desperately waking up and realizing that this world is about to change, and it's going to change dramatically. And it'll be interesting to see how people respond to this. Now, keep in mind that Donald Trump has 3 planets in the sign of Cancer. He has Mercury, Venus, and Saturn. And so that Mars is going to transit through his 11th house, and it will go into Leo, and it will go into his 12th house, which is the house of hidden enemies. And if you've been following Jason Goodman, supposedly there were hundreds of National Guard or troops that were staying at a hotel in New York City. And I believe this is an anticipation of the September 9th ruling by Judge Juan Mercan about Trump's legal status. And there's a rumor that Trump will be arrested and taken directly to jail/prison, which is why the National Guard is theoretically there in New York, because apparently the cops are going to have the blue flu that day. Like, this is, this is like turning out to be a tale from Gotham City and Batman. This is kind of where this is going, what it feels like. And we're right there with that Mars in conjunct Pluto. And I think the tension is in the air. The tension is in the air. We're feeling it. Whether it's these rumors and reports about the Venezuelan gangs, or the cops in New York, or now the encroachment of encephalitis. By the way, encephalitis has to do with the head. It's connected to the swelling of the brain. We get into Chiron in Aries at 22 degrees. What's Chiron doing today? Well, Chiron is in square, right? Chiron is in square with Pluto. It's moved back into square with Pluto. Remember, Pluto in Capricorn, this is when the shutdown happened. There was a Pluto-Saturn conjunction happening in January. And it's the beginning of COVID. And speaking of COVID, in where? China. Right? So we won't be going all the way back to 25 Capricorn, which is the scene of the crime, but it's moved back into the sign. And Chiron, I believe, is retrograde. So this is about as close as it gets to that square, although it'll probably go direct once again before Pluto does final ingress into Aquarius. So let's talk about the Moon-Saturn opposition just at the beginning of the day. Right? This is the boss telling you what to do. Moon in Virgo says, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to go over here. I want to go onto Etsy. I want to see what's for sale on Etsy. What's going on with Harris? What's going on with Walls? Do your job. Do your job. I'm going to be distracted. Like, this is where you have to, Virgo is one of those signs where you have to figure out where you fit in. And today is not a good day to fit in. It is not a good day to fit in. And the sun is going to continue its oppositional move towards Saturn. I think that's health related, right? Like these are the high priests of health over here, Saturn and Pisces. Take the shot, take the shot, take the shot, take the shot, take the shot. And Virgo says, over my dead body. And they're like, okay, no, this is what it's going to boil down to. Really, this is where it's going. And the sun is going to square Jupiter and Gemini. So these are like split realities. You have this one reality, which are the high priests of science, saying, well, trust the science, trust the science, trust the science. And Virgo says, trust the science. Did you see what the fuck happened in 2020, 2021, 2022? It's interesting. I've been watching these the last week. They had 2 deaths of children playing football. And they want to attribute the deaths to brain trauma. I don't know. I think that, this is terrible, right? We're dealing with children, like 10, 11-year-old children. My sense is that their passing may not have a lot to do with brain trauma. If you ever played football and you were 11 years old, which I did, and you wore a helmet, and this is in the 70s, you got your belt wrong. It's just the way it happened, right? You got your belt wrong. The technology for helmets is way different than it was when I played football. So I think there's little to no chance that an 11 or 12-year-old child, unless they suffer some kind of spinal cord injury, which is different, is going to pass via some kind of a head trauma. No, there's something else going on here. And it's still not being addressed. Anyway, we got a grand trine. And what is it? So we've got Venus and Libra, which I like. It's squaring Mars. Look at that. We got a Venus-Mars square. That's feisty. That's spicy, right? And then Venus is trining Uranus. It's opposing Neptune, and it's trining Pluto. I would say this is all about forming valuable and strategic partnerships today. That should be a part of your program. Forming valuable and strategic partnerships based on equal and fair value, which is what Venus and Libra is all about. Okay, I think I've covered about as much as I can with the amount of time that we have. So let's get into our star of the day. And let's get the banner up. And let's go to our star of the day. So True Hemp Science is the sponsor of this segment. And True Hemp Science is your one-stop shop for all things CBD, where when you spend $100 or more, you type in 15MINS, you will get the goodie bag. This is not the entire contents of the goodie bag. This is just one component of the goodie bag, where there's a couple of gummies of Starlight in here. And trust me, you'll like those gummies. You will like those gummies. You'll get a few other things that Chris will pop in there. So type in 15MINS, and you will get your gummy bag if you spend, or your goodie bag when you spend $100 or more. $150 or more, you get free shipping, and there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. TrueHempScience.com is your one-stop shop for all of your CBD needs. It's all organically sourced, and our guy Chris is involved with it from start to finish. You can make an appointment on the website if you have questions about the products. Somebody will be there to answer them for you. All right, let's get into our star of the day. And forgive me, Eva, if I butcher your name, Eva Vlaardingerbroek. I believe that's how you say it. And why is she the star of the day? Oh, it's her chart. Of course, it's her chart. Now, if you don't know who she's from Holland, the Netherlands, and she is what's called a philosophical lawyer. So she has a degree in the philosophy of law, and she is not woke. She is a critic of feminism. She is a critic of climate change. She's a critic of her own government. She's a critic of the EU. She is a supporter of Dutch farmers. She's been a guest on Tucker Carlson's show on a number of occasions. And her chart is quite interesting. Well, first of all, she's a Leo rising. Can you say Leo rising? Leo rising. There it is right there. Right. Sun in Virgo. Now, I was a little unfair at the beginning of the sign because I pointed out that Nancy Culp, who was Miss Hathaway on the Beverly Hillbillies, is a Virgo. But the sign is home to a lot of beautiful women, as you'll see as we go through the sign of Virgo. And I would say Eva falls into that category. Sophia Loren, Raquel Welch, there's many more that we'll run across. She has her sun in the second house, which means that her values, her material values, are rooted in Virgo, which she's going to identify with people like the Dutch farmers. She's going to identify with the quote unquote folk. Now, she may come from a very well-to-do and upper middle class family, but that's not where her values are emanating from, right? Because the second house represents our material values, the thing that connects us to the material world. So she's very invested in not just Virgo, but Taurus, which is the land, hence the relationship with the Dutch farmers. And she's got a trine with Jupiter, which is really interesting. Now, her Jupiter is in Capricorn and it's retrograde. So she's that Jupiter Virgo is looking back at these Capricornian structures, which are essentially the government and corporations. That's it. You can just say government, corporation, and then the high priest of the church, Capricornian, Saturn, the robes of Saturn. So she has that trine with the sun, and so it makes everything bigger, right? It expands her potentiality. Now, what I think is really interesting is this Venus-Mars conjunction, which is in the 12th house. So with Venus-Mars, oftentimes we get this kind of unisex or ambisexuality with Venus-Mars. And I think it's much more prevalent when it's in a house outside of the 12th house. So we're not really seeing this on her. What we're seeing is Leo rising, and we're seeing the sun in the 10th house, which is very Taurian. Again, the second house, very Taurian. Taurus ruled by Venus, which rules things like, of course, beauty, aesthetics, et cetera, but she's very into equality. Like she's an equalizer. This is how I would describe her chart. In that she may not be a feminist, but what she's trying to do is balance the power between the sexes. Because perhaps feminism has gone beyond the pale, right? That it is a philosophical and social overreach. And so I think what she's doing is she's working on balancing that, but it's coming from a very deep place. And she has that moon in Taurus. So again, there's more Taurian themes in her chart. So the moon is going to be very prevalent in her chart because it's in the 10th house. And the moon in Taurus tends to be much more conservative. Moon in Taurus, moon in Cancer, Moon in Virgo. These moons tend to be much more conservative. So you're going to see that in display. And it's this idea, like everything that I've just talked about, whether it's her rejection of feminism or the embrace of more organic values and supporting the Dutch farmers, right? That's the moon in Taurus. She's got Aries on the midheaven. Anytime anybody has Aries on the midheaven, they're a warrior. Like they thrust themselves into the world. Like their role is to whatever it is, they're going head first, right? And she has Saturn here in the ninth house, which is really interesting as well, right? The ninth house represents law. So she tends to be this philosophical, quote unquote, lawyer. And she's got Saturn conjunct her South Node. So she has unfinished business in this lifetime around settling scores and essentially channeling the ethos of Saturn and Libra, which is not easy. It's in its detriment. And somewhere out of all this, there's Juno. And Juno is connected to the seasons of fertility or the season of fertility. It's the springtime. And she literally has Juno in the spring position in Aries, but it's retrograde. And it's looking back here to Saturn. Saturn's also retrograde as well. She's got a few retrograde planets. That said, Saturn's also in this grand trine, right? So it's in a trine with Pluto in Sagittarius. So she's a zoomer. And what do we know about zoomers? They are more based. They're more based than millennials. And millennials can be, but again, they've got to go through the fire. That's the nature of the millennial. They have to go through the fire. Once they go through the fire, then they can be based because they're building from the ground up. They have a new base. But as a generation, Pluto and Sagittarius tends to be based. Now we have Mars coming in by degree and trining that Pluto. Mars by degree coming in and trining that Saturn. Saturn coming in by degree and, well, by sign. So she's got a grand trine. Pluto, Saturn, Pluto, Mars. This woman's a powerhouse. But you won't necessarily see it, right? What you'll see is the blue eyes, the batty lashes, and then the Goldilocks of Leo rising. She's a powerhouse, and she's somebody to keep an eye on because I think she is just getting started. She's going to go through her Saturn return. Feels like somebody who will play a much larger role on the global stage. She has Mercury in Libra. She has the true node in Libra. So we know she's about fairness and balance and in her own right, justice. It trines Uranus, which means she's got a quick mind. She's got a sharp mind. She's not afraid to think outside the box. It squares Jupiter. Maybe she's got a bit of overreach at times. She has Chiron in Libra. Something happened to her in her teens that caused her to course correct somewhere between 13 and 15 in the schooling process with the third house, which probably helps serve as a bit of a wake-up call. If there's any tension in her chart, it's the Mercury-Saturn opposition and the opposition with Mars-Neptune. The Saturn-Mercury opposition to me is censorship. And will she be allowed to continue to say what she wants to say in Holland and the European Union? Or will Saturn tamp down on her speech? And then the Neptune-Mars opposition, that's an interesting one because she has Neptune and Uranus in the sixth house. And this is all about work over here. Right? So one of the things that she needs to focus on is not just defending the rights of the farmers or the social engineering of her own sex, but work in general, because work is going to change. And if she can turn her attention to new models of work, I think that would be quite helpful in terms of her evolution. She's got that Palace in Scorpio, So she's able to pattern recognize where things are going. It's in the fourth house, which tends to be much more traditional. It's a very interesting chart. And I did not know a lot about her until I was going through the stars of the day. And I did a cram course on her last night. And she's, I think, somebody to pay attention to and keep an eye out for her. And I know that some of you out there would not have a difficult time doing that. All right. So there you go. There's our True Hemp Science star of the day. Ava Vlaardingerbroek. That's easy for you to say. Or maybe easier. Anyway, thanks for being here. I'm going to jump over to 15 Minutes of Flame. There's a link for podcast and there's a link for Rumble in the chat. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell your friends about the show. They may enjoy it if they like astrology, if they like just hanging out and starting their day with a little bit of stimulating conversation. All right. Thanks for being here. God bless you all. Take good care of each other and use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to stay open what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Bye for now.